We'll all listen here.
Okay, I'm just going to do a little overview of our fiscal year 27 budget. And if anyone has any questions, just chime in, or if department heads, if you have anything you want to say that you think I might be skipping over, that you think they should know, please just interrupt me. We're going to go through the general fund first, like always, and then talk about borough debt and school funding. We are going to have a few new slides. I'm going to talk about senior sales tax a little bit and how that's looking with the removal of the exemption. Some new ordinances that we are going to introduce soon to increase revenues, and large capital projects that are going to be occurring next year. So let's just get right to it. So the general fund is balanced. Next year's expenses are 5% higher than last year's. And some of the reasons for this is an increase to vehicle replacement costs, 5% health insurance increase. And I just want to remind the assembly, our health insurance is about $1.8 million a year that we pay. And that includes the employee side and the borough side. So 5% of that is about $90,000. 2.5% wage increase is budgeted in there. Of course, we're going through union negotiations right now. We don't know what it's going to be. That was just a placeholder to have something in there. We have created in the general fund in community development a new position for a lands manager. And we have increased the 6-month position to 12 months in Parks and Rec for parks maintenance.
Can I ask what that person will be doing at going from 6 to 12? Or is this the time to ask that question, or?
Yeah.
Stephanie, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was Stephanie Lumber. So the increase in that position, so that is a position that we kind of rotate here and there as we can, and we see how it fits for the year. We have a 6-month position that is solely a groundskeeper. And so they'll be out from April until the beginning of October. They go out and they work with, right now, Daniel, the groundskeeper, so he's an assistant. We have the ability to, as we start seeing more fluctuation in issues at the facility, to turn that into what's called a parks and maintenance laborer. So they'll be with Daniel and the groundskeeping for 6 months, and then they can come over to the facility throughout the wintertime, help with maintenance issues, and they can help with like plowing the yard, plowing the sidewalks, helping out with smaller maintenance things under the maintenance technician, our full-time maintenance technician.
And you only have one.
Correct.
So this would now add 2 people for the wintertime.
For the
Because you have one
correct,
person that
correct.
does all of it.
So we have one person in each one of those, right? We have the groundskeeper that is Daniel, and then we have our maintenance technician at the facility who is Brandon. And so now we have Bill Craig, who is in that 12-month position. So correct, Ed, we will have 2 people.
Okay, got it.
Yep, yes.
We had concerns about snow removal,
Mhm.
so that'll be part of that too.
Yep, that is what they also help out with. Yep. Yeah.
Oh, I guess, sorry, since we're already asking questions, when will the new position for the community development portion happen? Like middle of the summer? Like, do we have an idea of when that position is going to open?
We're not funded until July 1st if the assembly approves it.
Okay.
So, and then probably before then, we'll start working on ads and trying to figure out, do we, it's not going to be an easy position to fill.
Yeah, okay.
So we really don't know. It could be 3/4 of the year, or it could be, we could find somebody immediately. But again, we can't bring them on board till 1st of July.
And the third reading of the budget should be June 1st, unless it gets pushed back to that second meeting, one reading of it. And so then we'll know, once you approve it.
Okay, sounds good.
Rob?
This might be a longer meeting than I thought it might be, but I was at the school forever, but the health insurance increase, I mean, I'm not a mathematician, but it increased for us 8 to 12% for 10 years. I mean,
Yeah.
what's the end? What is the end of this with the insurance companies? I don't. It was like, after 10 years, I had less coming home than I had 10 years before. I was like, are
And
you
we
kidding me?
consider ourselves really lucky. Everyone, we have MODA and they quoted us a 5%, but Primera we all got a quote from Primera and it was, I believe, a 29% increase.
Well, I'm glad you feel lucky because I'm just like,
Well,
what?
Schools is high.
whatever's.
I know the schools is higher. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. And it comes out, you know, some of
Hospitals
it comes out of the
Primera,
teachers'
they
checks
just
too.
Got a huge quote too, so.
So when I say the noose is tightening back in October, this is part of it. Okay, that's all I have to say about that. It's just irritating. to
Hey,
me.
Jody.
So some of our challenges, we've talked about this before, sales tax revenue growth slowing down. All sales tax exemption changes must be voted on by the public, which slows things down. Property tax is at the 10 mil cap for operations this year, for service area 1. Of course, inflation and increased labor costs. Union negotiations, we might approve this budget and then have to come back to you for a supplemental based on what happens in union negotiations. We just don't know. Hopefully, we'll get it all sorted out before the last reading of this budget, but we just don't know right now. We met with them this week, but I don't believe we are able to meet with them again for a couple weeks.
They had some scheduling issues at their, and so we really won't be back at the table with them for a couple of weeks. And they made a pretty bold request that involves basically changing all of our compensation system. And it's gonna take us some time to go through that as well. So we're not ready to talk to them about that either.
It's a symptom of a bigger issue. If AML put an 18% fuel surcharge a month ago, the $14, I don't eat much mayonnaise, but the $14 jar is gonna become 22. And everybody's gonna face it. This whole community is gonna face it. And so, I mean, when the noose is tightening, it's like, it's getting tighter now because of this whole fuel deal. All right.
Then, of course, we have some large vehicle replacement costs coming up.
I know, but somebody has to say it.
Oh, I'm not laughing at you. I'm just like, this is true. That's
Fire it up.
100%. Yeah. I love it. I love it.
You need a cookie?
No. Too much coffee already.
We have a general fund balance. Policy to retain reserves between 4 to 6 months of operating expenses. Sorry, here you go.
Angel's our PMEA rep for the employees. That's Angel.
Welcome.
Negotiations. Yep. So in February, the assembly decided to transfer the fiscal year 25 surplus to help pay for the aquatic center project and the assisted living project. So that 6.8 is after that transfer. So I always include these just because I want you to be able to get a good visual of, you know, what our highest expenses are in the general fund, which are the school and public safety and streets. Just so you guys can get a feel for that. And then, of course, for the revenues, property tax and sales tax are our key revenues to cover the expenses. And then at the very right, we added the economic fund. In this year's budget, we proposed transferring about $70,000 from the economic fund to the general fund to help cover a position.
Where is the money from the economic fund generated from? I mean, our borough investments go into the
Well,
economic.
the economic fund has their own money that we invest separately in a special revenue fund. Yeah. So property tax, we're at the cap of 10 mils for operations this year. And then, as you can see, the sales tax is flattening out. It's too soon to forecast out what the removal of the senior citizen exemption is doing to sales. However, I did do a slide for the first 2 months January and February. I'm unable to do March right now because businesses have until the end of April to file for March and send. A lot of them like to wait till the very last day, which is tomorrow. So I didn't include that for March, but January, total sales that were exempted for seniors in 2025 was 527,000. In 2026 for the same month, it was 74. And I don't think it'll be that high in the future for January. You can see how it went down quite a bit in February. It's just some businesses do things for seniors, let's say in December, but then they don't bill until January. And so there was a little bit of that if they use, cash or accrual basis for their accounting. So I think that will probably decrease to, 50,000 and not the 74,000, but that's total sales. And so now you can't say that that's going to directly correlate to how much sales tax that we're bringing in. It's going to cause us to get more sales tax, but we don't know, like if a senior citizen were to buy a boat at Rockies Marine, they would have used the senior sales tax exemption. But however, without that exemption, they're going to hit the cap exemption, the $1,200. So some of that might just move over to that exemption. So it's not a direct correlation.
There'll be a recommendation from the borough to have that, raise that cap on a
Yes,
ballot
and I have
proposition.
some slides on that.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we did, in January, collect $26,000 more in sales tax than last year, and in February, 22,000 more. The slide for remote sales, you can see it's not increasing as much as it was. I think they, are slowing down onboarding new remote businesses. So I just thought I'd include that, just so you can see that a little bit. And then this is sales tax that was collected locally in town. So you can see how that's remained flat. Hopefully next year it will show an uptick. So property tax. This year, we've added an additional expense to the area-wide mill rate for operations. We are allowed to do this by charter section 1405. You'll see the 1.71 mils is included in that. And area-wide is for everyone. Service area 1, area-wide is included. So that increased the 5 mils to 6.64 mils. That's an increase of $164 per $100,000 of assessed value.
So the assessor said that he was gonna assess all the properties starting again this summer. When he was here, he mentioned that he was gonna be out starting all over again.
Yeah, I would have to check with him if he's physically looking at every, I don't know if he's doing all the remote.
He's gonna do Wrangell Narrows.
Okay.
Because he's a friend of mine, so he's gonna do the Wrangell Narrows. That's what he told me he's gonna do this summer. What he does in town, I don't know. I thought he said he was gonna go, but I don't think he can hit them all. So we'll see. But I do know he's gonna be back at least twice this summer.
So I just summarized what we can charge property tax area-wide versus service area, just for everyone's reference. Service area 1, of course, we'll have the area-wide mill rates included in there, and then we'll have the service area 1 mill rate for operations of the things that area-wide doesn't pay for, like the police and things like that. And then we have our service area 1 has debt service of 0.36 mils to finish off paying for the aquatic center and the library.
And can you,
Both of those,
Oh,
both of those are paid off. Is it 27?
yeah, this next year is our last year, so this is it. And then, yeah, we'll just have that one bond that we're paying on for the school for the roof project. So pretty exciting.
so do we get to take another loan out or?
Well,
Get out of here.
go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Bob.
Yes.
Can you describe to me, Jody?
Bob,
I thought you were just digesting. Did you have a
Yeah,
question? Sorry.
Last year it was 10.8. I mean, it's really almost flat, so this would be an increase of $13 per every $100,000 of assessed value. So operations is 10 mils in 2026, and then the debt service, which is the 0.57 plus the 0.36 is 0.93 mils.
And the aquatic one was the one we voted on, right? The public voted on?
You have to vote on all of them, but yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's our third. We actually had 3 different bonds for the aquatic center.
Right, right.
And we just needed a bond a little bit more to finish it off, and that's what this one is.
And that's what pushes it over 10. That
Yeah,
we're allowed to
so-
do.
Yeah, the charter says operations, 10 mil cap. You can't go over that, but debt service, voter approved debt service, you can go quite a bit. Yeah, sky's the limit. I think
We're
it's about
allowed
$25 million.
4 million?
Oh, no, it's gone up now.
Has it?
So.
Oh my gosh.
I believe it says right at the top here. For
Oh my
charter, the
God.
borough can carry up to 10%
49,
of assessed
wow.
value.
45 million we were able to.
Yeah,
She's doing a
and
good job.
Right
people.
now, we just have 4.1 million of general obligation. bonds.
Robbie, you would be maxing out that cap. I know you.
Max out about everything, seems like.
So the other day I sent, oh, yeah, go ahead.
Could you just go back a couple
Yeah.
to this
yeah.
area-wide service area powers?
Yeah.
I haven't seen this before.
So I just took language from the charter and just tried to summarize it. So on the left, the area wide, this is what we can charge property taxes for, area wide. We can charge for, and we've had historically only been doing education.
Let me
Oh,
see
yeah,
if I
please,
confused.
please.
One of the discussions we had earlier, Bob, was that it was time that if, outside of service area 1, the charter allows us to charge for the things that what Jody's showing here, which we hadn't done before. So one of the things we did in this that Jody did, and I think did it quite well, is she is showing, okay, if even though you live outside of service area 1, some of these things you get benefits for. And so therefore, we've increased the mill rate outside the service, she has, outside of service area 1. And just so that there's no, I think that this for me, well, it's going to raise a lot of concern, at least anybody that owns property out the road or off the island, because it is an increase, as Jody shows on her other slide. So just so you know up front that we will have people here talking about the increase. But I think what Jody's showing is it's reasonable. She's going through this and showing the ratios, and I think she has a reasonable approach that's pretty defensible.
And so then Papke's, for example, is the area wide side, right? Which used to be just education, but now we're tacking on assembly, library, cemetery, hospital, so on, for those guys outside.
Well,
Dispatch,
hospital.
I mean,
Yeah.
dispatch. the
Because
jail.
they do use those services for the most part, anybody living out there. Okay, thank you.
Do they use the roads?
I would think so.
Yeah, I would think so too. All right.
Not charging for roads.
So community services budget out of the general fund can be found on page 31, and the transfer room tax fund can be found on page 62. We put in the budget everything that these community services requested except Humanity in Progress. They requested 30,000. We put in 12 to match what we gave them last year. All the other community services asked pretty much for what they received last year. So we're balancing the budget, and Steve decided to keep it flat. So, local contribution to the school district, we put in the same number as last year. However, I would like to say I just got the school's budget about an hour ago. And I had talked with Shannon like a week or two ago. They're still proposing that the borough give them 3.45 million. Although if they get that BSA approved by the state, they will be fine with 3.25. So I told them that we were putting 3,250,000 in the budget, and once it's decided what the school's getting from the state, we can always go back and, talk about it again. One of the things I wanted to show you about this slide is we use Secure Roll Schools to help fund our local contribution. And we're trying to not use as much Secure Roll Schools since we only get about 600,000 a year. And sometimes they say, no, you're not going to get any more. And so, so this is doing that by last year, or I guess this current year, we're using $770,000 of Secure Roll Schools. Next year, proposing to use just 660. We're trying to ratchet it down, but in doing so, we're having to use more taxes to help pay for the school. But we just want to reduce our reliance.
Wait,
on
by
that fund.
reducing secure real schools, are we just like saving a little bit more on that side? Is that what basically the point of doing so?
Yes.
Okay.
So just because we don't know when it's going to end, they tell us it's going to end. So last year at this time, when we had this discussion, we were told it was going to end. So we were really serious. We have to stop using this fund so much. And then right after we approved the budget, they're like, oh, we're going to extend it for 3 years. Well, we just got last year's payment last month. We're supposed to get this year's payment in May. And then we'll get one more payment next fiscal year. And then who knows? So, yeah.
Well, they don't find out how much they're gonna get per head per student till June or July or something. We talked about this last year.
Yeah, so that's the problem, right? Like if we give them more than they need, then, we're having to make cuts on our end and having to, charge taxpayers more when they might not need it. And so like this last winter, the school had, I believe it was like $800,000 surplus, and they were trying to figure out what to do with it. And, they've just end up putting it in their capital project funds.
What Jody's been trying to do is to say, we can bank that money for them, but they're, in the school, they're limited in the amount they can carry over from year to year.
I understand that
Yeah,
very well.
yeah, but for some reason, we're not communicating quite as well. And I like to see is it where we can hold that money and keep it for another year for them. And we don't spend it on other things.
Even on a classroom
I mean, it's
budget, I was told
reserved.
you have to spend it by this date, cause you can't carry it over for a bigger thing 3 years from now. It had to be spent. So.
Well, and honestly, since we just were able to balance our budget with the 3.25, if they're going to need more money, it's probably going to have to come out of this fund.
Quick question.
Yeah, I believe 6,000 of it was for the roof. I believe so. I have it right here. Yep.
Can it be done? I had a question when you looked at that. Can it be done for the amount they're showing? They just had an estimate in here, but they don't have any quotes or anything else.
So yeah, they also said in their application, in addition to the roofing funds requested from the borough, the museum is pledging $4,000, and we are requesting $6,000 from the Petersburg Community Foundation.
We got.
Oh, with the remaining funds, $22,000 being requested from the Rasmussen Community Support Granting Program for a total project estimate of $38,000. from Curtis. So future ordinances to increase revenues. The sales tax cap, that's gonna come before the assembly at the second meeting of May. I'm just taking the old one and dusting it off, adding some different language, updating sales tax caps that have maybe increased in other communities, because that was part of that ordinance. And then it'll be before you at that second meeting. The marine passenger fee ordinance increase will be at this next assembly meeting on Monday. I'll start it.
What did we end with?
What's that?
What did we decide on?
Well, it's being proposed, well, I'll get to it. I have a slide on that.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah.
Thanks,
And
sorry.
then we're talking about increasing building permit fees, which will happen later.
Why is that?
I don't know if I should touch that one. I don't have a slide on that one. But maybe this summer, maybe this fall, depending
Wrapping
on.
us for later?
It's,
What's going on?
yeah, I am. This is
Glad
my
to see
prep.
it's coming. All right.
There's a lot of things happening.
Yeah. all right.
So I'm digressing a little bit from the budget, but I just wanted to add this. In 2025, businesses exempted over 25 million in sales due to hitting the $1,200 sales tax cap. So the items I've highlighted in green are related to tourism. The fuel, of course, can be for fishing and whatever as well. It's not necessarily tourism, but there are charters, cruise ships, lodges, boat rentals that fuel up. So I highlighted it, but I just wanted to give you guys an idea of what.
Everybody's bracing themselves for the fuel, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's southeast.
We've seen it in all of our budgets.
Yeah. uh-huh.
Are we setting now at the lowest tax cap of anybody in Southeast?
Yeah, actually, I have one of my staff putting that together again. I believe we are the lowest. Ketchikan's second at 2,000. Wrangell just increased theirs this last year to 5,000, which we tried to do.
What do we?
Like Juneau and stuff is 10,000, 15,000. Some places have no limit, no tax cap, like down south and things, but
Is never mind. This is a work session, right?
yeah, sorry.
So, with the sales tax cap, I mean, it does need to increase. I mean, there's definitely a way we can get money, especially from people that are just coming here for a day or two or whatever. The fuel thing is gonna just eat up everybody, right? If you're getting taxed more down on the fuel. Is there another, and I'm just talking out loud, is there another way we can help the fishing fleet in a different light that can maybe offset this? Not a whole lot, but just a little bit, enough to be like, well, we know we need to increase this, but in return, we have this other thought that can help mitigate something. I don't really know. I'm just trying to talk out loud of maybe like lesser of two evils kind of thing.
There's some at the national level, at the federal level, that's talking about food producers and transporters, like the trucking companies and transport, maybe AML as well. But if you produce food for people, maybe there needs to be a break. Because I don't know, I haven't been without food for a while, but it's, you know what I'm saying?
There also is a proposal in the legislature that in addition to $1,000 PFD, there is a fuel to everybody, a fuel tax, or not fuel, a fuel increase. And I think it was $200 when I looked at it per person in Alaska.
That's not, is that just private people, is not commercial?
It was everybody, every resident of Alaska would get it.
I understand,
Yeah.
but the commercial trucking companies and so forth.
Yeah,
that's
no, I'm not,
huge,
yeah,
it's off the
yeah.
charts.
Yeah, I know, I'm not.
And that's gonna trickle down to everybody here.
Is there anything that anybody happens to know off the top of the head that could?
I've lived in communities where when things got like this,
So like kind of like a cap during the summer months, not necessarily 72, but you could cap it at 125. I'm just using random numbers here.
budget figure in your.
divided by 2,
Money to stay for
right?
50 cents a gallon is what they're planning on.
Mhm.
Six, you're getting twice as much as what you put in your budget. So they would come at a happy number in between and say, this is the.
Challenges is Alaska's got some of the low, I think it is the lowest fuel tax in the country. So anything we do, you know, we talked, for example, internally, we talked about a fuel tax at some point as a potential way to raise money. Has to go before the voters. No, I mean, and you see communities, not in Alaska, but down south, that are, you know, the state comes in and says, we're gonna forego collecting the fuel tax during this, you know, Iran stuff. You know, we don't have that, the state gets all that money. So it's really a, you know, there's not much on the directly that we could say, okay, we'll stop collecting this so people could fuel up cheaper.
So I've been struggling with this because I remember last year, or when it, you know, the last time we voted on it, because I was talking with fishermen about it. And I struggle with it because they keep circling to the same thing that I circled to, is that we have a fixed population that you're continuing to tax more, right? So that there's the struggle there where it's like, okay, but raising to 72 up makes sense on the other other portions. And then I always thought with the fishermen too, there's many fishermen, seiners, let's use them as an example. They will come here to offload, but sometimes they want to stay on the coast and they'll go to Craig. The sales tax cap, if I remember reading, was like 7,000. They're not going to stop and complain, or they might complain, but they're not going to not get fuel just because they're there. However, that doesn't mean I don't think that Petersburg could do a good job about being like, hey, you know, we still appreciate you. So we understand that we need to bring this up, but maybe for the fleet during the summer months, we number cap it. I don't know what number cap, like it is, like if it's 5,000, that would raise it to 300, right? Maybe at the dock, make it cap it at 125, 150. This is just talking, we're at a work session, since I may as well bring it up. And if we're gonna be
Capping it just for fishermen?
for fuel,
Yeah, I don't think you can do that legally.
no? Okay, well then, I
What
have
we could
no other,
Probably do is do some kind of incentive, and other communities do this. If you bring a fish ticket from Petersburg, you know, some kind of a reward if you sell your fish to in Petersburg. Like,
How would that work?
yeah, I'm not sure.
bring a fish ticket and you could get something for it.
Something.
Oh geez, like half price on your mortgage. I don't want to bring that up. But yeah,
That's what we need.
exactly. That's what they've done in other places.
Okay,
Every
Okay.
fisherman knows in the fleet that the fuel's cheaper in Wrangell than it is here.
yeah, but if they're,
Every, huh?
Actually, it is.
Well, I fueled up there.
but if their sales tax cap brought up to 5,000, it don't really matter anymore.
No, I understand.
So if we're gonna bring it up to, you know, Southeast Standard, which probably, I mean, we should, because there's a lot of tourism money that needs to be capitalized on. But I just know where we're gonna, where the head is gonna happen, right? So,
Well, and we'll talk about this more when, you know, we get to that ordinance.
okay, sorry.
It
And-
would be like if we did something like that, like say transients, because I have guys running all the way in from the coast to sell black cod this first month. And if they could get half price on their moorage or something. But the other thing is the harbor isn't the one that needs to take the hit. You know, who's collecting the taxes or who needs to take the hit? So that's why, you know, it deserves a bigger conversation. But
Bob?
You have questions?
Well, yeah, I just kind of, maybe we should revisit the whole philosophy of why we have a hard cap on sales tax. What is the underlying thing we're trying to do with that?
Funny.
Well, we'd have to dig that out when it was set. I can't remember what year now, but I'll let you know when we introduced this. I remember researching if we had put it in the costs, our inflation, it would be over 10,000 now for our tax cap. So,
The idea is to encourage local purchases.
No, it's to capitalize on people that are spending more than $1,200. You're only if you spend $5,000 on something, you only pay $72.
Yeah, I mean, if you go down south, they don't have sales.
Yeah,
tax
I mean,
caps.
I never
It doesn't
encountered
happen.
that anywhere else.
Yeah.
Steve brought it up last meeting. He said, well, if, say a company comes into a lodge and they're gonna run out, how many ever, they'll write one check for 15, 16,000, whatever it is. The most they get taxed on is the 1,200, so they paid $72 in tax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
But I mean, why we originally, why
why?
Petersburg,
That was
and not
decades
just
ago.
Petersburg, but why in Alaska, the sales tax cap became a thing?
To help out the fishermen.
Okay, all right.
It affects some things
Doesn't
more
feel
than
that.
others from looking at that. Like it probably rarely impacts your
Day to day.
telecom bill, but it totally impacts your fuel bill.
If your
But-
fuel is over $1,200.
Yeah. And that's, I have a smaller boat. I'm always right about at it, but
So when-
still I'm paying about as much in a Gillnetter as a Sainer sales tax all year. Is that,
That's exactly right, Bob.
but,
Anyway.
but is that cool? I mean,
To keep it low, you mean?
low for someone else.
Well, and
not
then
low for
to
me. I mean,
also,
Right.
if it is a work session, those are the guys that can write it off. I mean, commercial guys can write that expense
You
off
taking
on their
300
taxes.
gallons of fuel is different than somebody off the coast that's taking 3,000 gallons of
It
fuel.
just seems philosophically kind of arbitrary, like what we're doing here. It's just a giveaway to some people and not others? And so what are we getting for it?
You could say that also about harbor rates too. Right? With harbor rates, they're writing that off as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Expenses.
We're gonna move on to the marine passenger fee ordinance, which will be introduced at this next assembly meeting. In it, we're currently proposing, to increase it to 8. I believe that number came from an assembly member. Was that you, James, perhaps?
Yep.
So this will generate an additional 30,000. We use it for things such as the restrooms, cleaning them, singly bridge materials, janitorial at the library in the summer when all the tourists go up there. Some new proposals that we have on page 20 or page 64 of the budget is the Singley Bridge engineering, Falls Creek rail installation and trail maintenance. Someone from the community requested that we look at, a lot of tourists go out there to Falls Creek and the path down is uneven and things, and to put a rail in. Was that you?
But I had asked the state. I didn't ask the borough.
Well, we manage.
No, I went and talked to him and he said I was asking if I Can Travel could put it in because everything takes so long. And he said that we're in such an interesting position that we're one of the only communities that is a private person wants to pay to put on something out there when he said that he can get the money, but they just I've heard nothing since. So that's interesting. It came here because I requested it directly from the state.
Okay.
Oh, no, Fish and Game.
State.
Yeah, state. Yeah, they said that they would do it. I didn't know it would come to here. This is the first time I've heard of it since I've talked to him.
They
Yeah.
can't do it. Liz, do you want to talk on this at all?
Well,
Go for it.
okay, yeah. I don't think they have the money.
That's
And-
okay. I mean, I feel like
Yeah,
if I
and-
put it in, it'd be fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
but you can't do it either. And the borough we're part of a management agreement
Yeah.
for out there.
Can I donate? So
to do
anyways.
so, But it
never
was
mind.
it's harder to take money from private, like almost impossible for a state, apparently, state facility.
It's so annoying.
Yeah,
All I
so,
want is a handrail. Anyways,
but
okay.
I think this does a handrail and it actually maybe helps create a switchback, so it's not so treacherous to go down. Might be-
Sorry, I
might
didn't-
be the easiest way to get.
Sure,
How's
sure.
that?
Well, it comes from them anyways, at $8. So there you go.
So these changes to this marine passenger fee, are we gonna be, like in 2 years, will there be something else to adjust this or?
Well, you could add that to the ordinance, but I think currently it's just increasing it from 5 to 8.
5 to 8? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, because then we can vote to raise it
Sure.
to
Yeah.
10 if you want.
there'll be 3 readings of it, so.
And when I proposed at 8 because I sent out a long time ago there's a Ketchikan study of the cruise ships and stuff, and then you hear about other communities doing it too much. Like I think Skagway got in trouble because they had like they're charging $15 per head for one side and another $15, so it's $30 per head every time they come to town. And then Juneau was not spending their money right. And so, and for me, I don't like big jumps. I like incremental jumps. So $8 is good. And then in another 2 years, we can raise it to 9 or 10 and then just slow instead of these huge, just dramatic jumps, which we're seeing with everything else. So that's why I chose 8. And anyways,
Are you gonna retro it back to the beginning of the season, or is it gonna start July 1?
No, it's not going to start until January 1st. Because it's too soon to do it to the cruise industry. I mean, a lot of times they book these cruises a year in advance for people. And so, we're gonna give them a lot of notice.
This, currently 5, going to 8. This is every visitor that comes to Petersburg on a,
I think a ship that has more than 24 people,
and,
20 berths.
20
and
birds.
so the people that are lightered in are paying the same fee out from Fredericktown. Okay.
So ways to continue to balance the budget. Well, so this was a list from last year, and now we are at the 10 mil cap for property taxes. Increase the use of secure schools. That's only good for short term. It's not sustainable. Fisheries business tax. Currently, the general fund gets $350,000 off the top of the fisheries tax that we get, and then the rest goes to the harbor. Cut expenses, personnel, services. Use reserves, which is, again, is not sustainable. Modify sales tax exemptions, must go to the voters. Increase rates annually for other services, which we're, really starting to look at here with these proposed ordinances and things. Area-wide charges for services other than education, which, again, we have in this budget as well. On motor pool replacements, evaluate more if possible, which I think they do, but yes, go ahead.
Curious, what does it take to, is it possible and like, okay to think to start offloading stuff that I know that we subsidize a couple things that for a long time now, right? And because there's been our money put into it, maybe federal money into some of these buildings or whatever, if we were to try to sell those to private, could we? Manor or the community cold storage
I
or?
think with the value of the manor, it might need to go to the vote of the public for.
Charter reasons, anything over 500,000 has to go.
For a sale?
For sale has to go to the vote of the public.
For the voters for approval.
So we could, for example, if the hospital wanted to work with us, we could have a management agreement with the hospital to run the manor without it changing hands, and they could do that. But if we tried to sell the manor, it would have to go to the voters first.
Have we had that conversation with the hospital yet?
Bob, do you want?
Yes, we are having that conversation with the hospital.
Oh, we are.
Yeah.
Oh, it'd be nice to know. I mean, what are,
Sweet.
what's
It's
the conversation?
back in there, it's back, Jeff, it's back in their hands right now. So I can't answer your question because they had to go back and look at some things where they wanted to take it over. Then they'll be back to us.
So they approached the borough.
We approached them.
We
Okay.
approached them,
Yeah.
yes.
But because I know that, there are things that we're subsidizing, so that's another way to save money, if we're not subsidizing as much, so.
Yes.
Well, I don't think it's the borough's responsibility.
I don't think so either.
I mean,
Yeah.
we have basic services that we should be providing.
Yeah,
Say that again, Jeff, I didn't hear you.
Well, there's basic services that the borough should be providing, and I don't know about, I mean, in these times where the budgets are gonna get tighter and tighter and expenses are going up and up, I don't think that's the borough's expertise is housing.
yeah, right.
That.
Road maintenance, secure all schools fund for roads right now is 624,000. Last month, we actually received 108,000 for the secure all schools for roads. This has paid for a lot of projects, and we've actually budgeted this year for crushed rock, for it to pay for a lot of crushed rock that we need. And just we've budgeted the whole amount just in case we need it. We've been talking about, paving and things like that, so it's there if we need it. Hopefully, this fund will grow $200,000 within the next 2 years, so that will be nice, little cushion to have.
Challenge with roads is we have no confirmed funding mechanism for roads. So in other words, this Secure Rural Schools, every couple of years we hear, oh, it's going away, then it comes back. And it's a small enough dollar amount that it really doesn't pay for much when it comes to paving. If we wanted to do a paving project that, you're talking like $10 million. I mean, it's very expensive and it's getting more expensive. Inflation, price of oil, asphalt is basically an oil-based product. So, yeah, we don't have a great answer. I mean, we've talked internally, and I think I've thrown some stuff out there about doing a bond every 20 years to do paving. That means more money on all of us that have to pay for the bond. I mean, and so it's really, paving is a problem. It's not just a paving problem here. It's anywhere, any city you go to. It's an expensive problem. And, we don't have an asphalt plant here, so anything we do involves having to bring a plant here and pay for that. Mobilization costs can be high because they have to truck or barge all the rocks in. Glow's talking about doing a big paving project for the drive down and maybe the South Harbor parking lot, but, it's.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that, because there was talk last fall about, because I
Talking
hear
about
a
it.
lot about and you do too, about the drive down and bumpity bump with trailers and seines.
But, anybody who
Grandpa.
lives or drives on XL Street, I mean, I can go down the list. I mean, there's a bunch
Yeah.
of city streets that are every bit as bad. I mean, it's awful. We don't have an answer. Yeah.
Well, it's the built-in speed bumps we had as kids.
Yeah. there
We
you go.
nobody worried about dust, because the dust was everywhere. And it was always a speed bump all the way out to Sandy Beach.
I had recently asked the garbage guys and Kelly and whoever else was working up there if they could do me a favor, and when they're going and picking up everybody's trash, to tell me which roads are like the worst. And they called me back and told me that it was easier to tell you which
Ones
roads aren't. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
no.
yeah, it's pretty.
No, I mean,
Not
it's
great.
best way to say it is we know we have a problem, but we don't have a solution, because the solution is money, a lot of money, actually. And
We also remember that state told us that this year there would be no paving plan or anything in Petersburg. There is potential next year, potential.
that's one of the reasons we used to try to save this money, because hoping the state would pay the mobilization costs so we wouldn't have to, and then we'd have some money set aside to actually do some paving. Problem is, cost of asphalt grows faster than our fund does. And so I'm not sure we're gaining anything by holding off.
I have a question for Liz, I think, right? Some community members out there say we're not looking for enough grants. Do we get grant money from the state for something like this, or would it be federal, or even if there is anything that exists out there? Is there?
It's through the state, but for just regular road maintenance, they have their transportation priority list, and they're looking at their roads first.
Right.
And then they have small set aside programs for local roads.
Just like goes
But
to,
usually the ones that I see get the most money are like road alternatives, like trails or pathways or things like that.
Okay. Well, I also,
Shared statewide for,
How did we get Wrangell Avenue all those years ago
I
when they
don't-
came in and did that?
I don't know if that.
That
Right.
was a fabulous.
well, is
benefit
is
to us.
Main Street,
Clinton and
then they
Haida?
gave it to us after,
Yeah.
right?
Will Clinton and Haida be bringing a paving thing? So if they do, then we have,
They're,
Why that's what I'm.
so if they're gonna bring it here, okay.
well, what they're likely gonna do the same way they did it last time, which is do all the subdivision, get the the infrastructure in, get the roads built down to hard pan, but not put a top surface on it until a couple of years later. That's what they did up there now. So it starts off as a dirt gravel road, but built very, very well, and then comes back to be, asphalt later. Clinton and Haida does, all of this is done on grants. federal grants to the tribe. And, so they've prioritized, and I'm glad they did, prioritize getting the roads built to our specs, getting the infrastructure all built in, getting those lots ready for sale. Their focus is, and not necessarily in putting the hard surface on, although that's hopefully will come.
And I recently called Aaron and we chatted about this because I had public people call me because they're like, who do I sue if my tire pops or whatever? They were bitching to me about that. But anyhow, another thing to know about this too is that there's aging infrastructure underneath the roads that we possibly have to attend to if we're gonna pave over it. So, okay, I guess we'll all put our heads together to find money or fund it somehow.
Yeah, I mean, Carl led a charge 3 years ago, 4 years ago, longer than that now. 8 years, wow. To do a local improvement district up at Severson's and talk to homeowners who lived up there, where you'd add it to your property tax and we'd do a paving project. Not a single street passed.
Yeah, right.
People want the roads fixed, but they don't want to have to pay for it.
Of course.
And I totally understand. But unfortunately, roads are one of the most expensive things we have to try to maintain. And there's not a source of money for it. I mean, the reason I looked at a gas tax, a local gas tax a few years ago was exactly this issue, saying, if we had a gas tax, if it was collected in the harbor, it goes to the harbor for their infrastructure. It's collected here in town, it goes to a fund for streets and roads. Some states have done things like that, but it was not a popular concept here, so I didn't push it. But yeah, there's not a real organized set number that we get every year that we could put aside to do paving projects. To do it well, we'd probably need $500,000 or better every year, and the general fund can't take that. You've seen the budget. If we took $500,000 more and put it into streets, how many police officers are you willing to get rid of?
Well, as you look at it, it's pretty easy to look at between the state and the local with snow removal. Take a look at local snow removal
Versus
equipment versus the state.
Yeah.
I went by in town and I went out the road and I was like, holy smokes. It's a marked difference in the equipment.
Carl, what if this hypothetical data center coming, is there any way we can draw that money, that consistent money, to a different fund for something like this? Shoot. That's why we're here. We're work session. Okay.
So revenue comes into the electric, we're selling power to them, that's how we're getting.
And then you sell, you donate to us? I don't know.
Yeah, but on that next slide there, we're talking about a 4% increase.
Are we moving on?
Yeah,
Okay, we're moving on.
sorry.
Okay, so.
There is no data center, that is eggs in a basket,
Yeah, right.
remember that.
So we have some scheduled rate increases. In the electric budget, there is a 4% in the proposed budget. That introduction of that ordinance will be at this next meeting, assembly meeting. Water, there's 3% built into their budget. Wastewater, you can go ahead and cross that out because I just talked with Aaron. Apparently, there's nothing right now in their budget for an increase to wastewater. But however, at the next assembly meeting, and please correct me if I'm wrong, there's going to be a rate study talk about electric and wastewater and what the rates need to be and why. So that will be at this next meeting as well. So stay tuned. We may have to, in fact, we're going to have to adjust the wastewater's budget here before we pass it in the final reading.
Because the reason we're gonna do a rate study is because we don't think the rates are high enough, or.
Well, we have a rate study software now, Waterworth, that actually, I don't know if you remember the last time they did a talk. I'm sure you do. It was a long one, wasn't it, Carl?
Everything was in the red in 3 years or whatever.
Yeah.
It was horrifying.
Yeah, and so as we get new numbers and, learn more about the timing of projects and things, we are able in that software to shift where those capital projects are. And that really has an effect on what the rates are going to be for the future.
I'm just taking wastewater. We've had those conversations recently. We have the outflow for almost 300,000 that has to be fixed. The EPA issue that at the plant itself, that, you know, we've estimated up to 15 million, we got 8 million. Now we'll go back to the feds for more money. There's no guarantee we'll get it. We have to start planning, putting money aside for when the day comes that we have to start that project and we have to have enough money to do it. So it's, you know, a lot of things, just like in your own household budgets, are driven by outside influences that you have very little control over. Cost of fuel, cost of groceries. For us, it's cost of infrastructure.
That 8 million, was there a time frame on that?
I'm shocked that we haven't heard soon about, you know, when we can get that money, but I think, Aaron, last time you checked, they were still tied up in DC, so.
They said they'd reach out to us when it's time to apply for that.
Because at one time I thought we were looking at like almost a 24% increase in the wastewater rates.
That may be true. Yeah, I'm not joking.
Oh, no, I am not
I-
joking either.
I'm
I am totally not joking.
Absolutely not.
That's true.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's gonna be a big hit. to
Well,
this town.
and one of the things that when you talk about these rate increases, we put percentages in there because it's easier to define it. But what is a 24% rate increase in
Yeah.
wastewater? Actually, how much money is that? It's not as much as it sounds. I mean, you know, I can't remember the numbers now, but, so that's an important part of the communication process. 24% sounds, oh my God, but if you find out it's only $30 a month, still a lot for a lot of people, but not as bad as it sounds.
Well, it's cumulative too. So you have
And that-
30 here, and
that
40
absolutely-
there, and 50 over here, and 24 over there, and $22 for a jar of mayonnaise. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, wow. And then not to mention fuel for people that are driving to work and back, or out to Coronation and go fishing. Okay.
So we have 7 enterprise funds and an internal service fund, the motor pool fund. I just laid out the revenues and expenses for fiscal year 27. Again, the wastewaters are off a little bit, so don't look at those too closely, but those are gonna have to be adjusted. But as you can see, the sanitation fund, and I had just been talking with Aaron about this, you know, this was with the 3% increase in their revenues, but we're gonna have to revisit their rates. I mean, I was talking with Carl before this meeting too about recycling. You know, right now, like I'm getting a $5 discount to recycle with an extra can when recycling costs are costing more than regular garbage. So we need to talk about fixing that.
Yeah, and I can speak to that. So I think you may have remember us talking about the CSWA study, so Southeast Alaska Waste Disposal. We're part of that to basically determine is there better ways to deal with trash than we currently do. I can tell you the first thing we'll do once we have that study, if it doesn't say anything other, is probably get rid of just curbside pickup for recycling. I know people don't want to hear that, but it cost us more to recycle than we get back for it right now.
Or maybe even just limiting it to cardboard or, you know. getting some
And that's why
RFID.
we're waiting for the study, which is, I think, the fall. Yeah, so we didn't want to make changes and then have to turn around, oops, we made a change too fast. We want to hear what the study has to say. And so, as Jody said, maybe we start only doing aluminum and cardboard, or maybe we do drop off instead of curbside pickup. I can't answer that, and, you know, waiting for 6 months to the fall where we have this report by these people that we've paid to look into it makes some sense before we take everybody's curbside recycling away.
Does the curbside pickup cost that much, or is it the recycling that costs that much? Because you could argue that if the recycling portion of it is what actually drives the cost, then, and not the actual pickup part. You understand what I'm trying to ask here?
Yeah, so clearly curbside costs because you have fuel, especially if you say fuel and labor, and you have trucks. You are correct in pointing out that if it's commingled, the cost to get rid of it is basically the same outside of the pickup cost. So in other words, if we do drop off and it's all commingled,
Difference.
that's really no different than what we're paying now, which means recycling cost us more to get rid of than regular trash does.
Yeah, so it's
So,
like if,
You know,
yeah,
But-
I wouldn't want to see it get rid of if the real issue is just recycling in
Again,
general.
that's why we were waiting for this study. We want to see the numbers and
There's
what they have to say. Maybe they come up with a brilliant, I mean, one of the ideas that was talked about was opening going to someplace like Sitka or Juneau and creating a big landfill that it's a regional landfill.
Well, there's been a lot of speculation about what happens to recycling anyway. Does it actually get recycled or does
It
it end
does,
up in a
I mean, it
landfill
does, but it
somewhere?
has to get shipped all the way down to Eastern Washington. So you can imagine, but our
Shipping
trash does the
costs
same
and
thing.
fuel
I mean,
and- yeah.
that's our problem with our regular trash anyway. Anyway, it's not and sanitation, we have issues with wastewater, but we can tie it down to, you gotta redo your plant. Water just needs, they got a couple of projects. Electric, we've talked about. Sanitation's is almost totally outside of our control. We've got a rail line, a landfill, a barge system, all of which want to make money on our trash. And so every one of them adds cost to, a ton of stuff we throw away. And, it's basically a monopoly. I mean, they come to us and say, well, we're going to raise it this much. And if you don't want that, then good luck finding somebody. And they're pretty much right. There's nobody else that can do what they do. And when you combine, again, the rail line and the barge system along as well as with the landfill itself, the borough and all the, cities in Southeast that are going through that, take it pretty hard. I mean, it's big increases. So anyway.
Electrical budget. We have two additions that weren't in the budget that you received before, and I was just wondering if Steve or Carl, you want to talk about those two additions?
Sure. So the one is according to the charter, we have to have the equipment and you say, I think my meter is reading too high, come out and verify it. Well, the one we have currently now is unrepairable at this point. So that's the one. And the other is the pole. I messed this up trying to say the word. I don't know why. Resistograph. So it's a tool that you check, you drill a couple places in the pole and use the resistance of the drill bit to say how much of the pole is rotten. And at one point, we rent one every so often, come in, but the expense of renting them is about 30% of purchase right now. And the goal is to use that to go, we approximately have around 2,000 poles. And it's to test everyone, 500 of them every year and keep going around. So the next year, another 500, when you're done, you're back to the first. And try to keep ahead of some of the pole breakage. And then like now with AT&T renting pole space, putting stuff up, finding a bunch of poles that need to be replaced. So it's a proactive measure.
How long would a drill bit last?
So the drill bit, you buy them in packs of 10 and they're not super cheap, but they last a while. I mean,
10 years?
No.
5?
I would think.
1 year?
I would think you would
Oh,
probably
that's wrong.
use 10 of those drill bits a year.
Yeah,
I mean, they're.
We call them drill bits. They're really more like a needle.
I understand. He said drill bit, so
Yeah.
I
Well,
understand that.
That's how to explain it.
All right.
There's a really
I was
long
trying to do the
name
math
for it,
on the
but
deal.
they just put it in parentheses, drill bit.
Yeah.
So. That's the two additions there.
And then before I have you start explaining this slide, first of all, could anyone, department heads, I've been requested to ask that you speak into the mic more, because Becky and Tiffany that are listening are having our problem hearing you. But also at the next assembly meeting in the consent agenda, we'll be asking for approval for a bond attorney, and the bond attorney needs to be hired soon to start working on issuing bonds, or not issuing bonds, creating a bond ordinance to take to the voters this fall to issue bonds for the standby diesel generator project. So go ahead if you want to, please.
So this project has actually been ongoing for quite some time. We did a study back in 2021 where so I've been working on it since then. The project itself, you're well aware of, but It'll add 3.5 megawatts of diesel power to our fleet. Currently under a design build contract with Dawson Construction to design and build the facility. However, we have bought quite a bit of equipment that goes into this project as well already to avoid any markups from a contractor getting going on it. The concrete foundation surrounded by a temporary structure. But so when we started this project, the estimate in 2021 was $4.5 million for the whole project. And over time, the utility was able to pull together 5.4 million. Part of that was a bond that was issued back when we were funding the Blind Slough Hydro, thinking that 4.5 million was going to be achievable. Well, the current construction cost estimates are right around 8 million. So obviously we have a big gap there. And we have enough money in our existing budget after equipment purchases to first at the assembly level, and then it has to go to the voters this fall. And we're hoping that as long as that goes smoothly and the community supports that bond, that the bond sale will actually occur this fall or winter. And so the funds will be available for a spring completion of the project. The core and shell will be around the building, but all the internal electrical and mechanical systems won't be installed yet. And the commissioning, of course, can't happen until that is in place. So there's a few steps after the core and shell is built, and this bond will help.
Factored into the 4%.
I want to back up for the new members talking about why we need that new generator.
So that study that we did in 2021, we're seeing consistent load increases every year. Electrical loads are growing in Petersburg. That study showed that when they look at the adequacy of our diesel fleet, they're looking at what loads we have to cover, in the wintertime predominantly. And they look at that equation with the whole fleet minus the biggest one, because that's a pretty common case where no diesel engine is going to be 100% reliable all the time. So they look at it as an N-1 as the situation. So without our largest diesel generator that we have right now, we probably wouldn't be able to,
Even
as
with
of
our
this year,
largest
yeah,
one, we can't meet it.
wouldn't be able to meet those winter
That
loads.
13.8 peak.
Right.
Carl.
That's okay. So we're adding this 3.5 megawatts to cover that situation. That report also said, as soon as you get that one done, you better start working on the next 3.5 megawatts because of the load growth. And so that is in the Waterworth rate study. That's part of the benefits of having that software, is that you put in your capital improvement plan out as many years in the future as you can conceivably plan. And that helps you set rates today to cover those costs. It's very important to do that, because if you wait until the year before you need that next diesel generator and try to raise the money, rates are going to go up 100% instead of 4%. So it's very important to see what's coming in the future, make rate adjustments now, so you're building up the reserves in the department to cover those costs.
To cover debt service costs, because
Yeah,
obviously
debt
we're not gonna get $8 million in reserves.
Well, I only got about 15 or 20 phone calls after the data center thing. And then I said, well, did you listen to the meeting? Because Carl, well, both of you answered the questions that they had. Well, obviously they had not, listened to the meeting. But I thought that, that, okay, we spilled how many ever gallons of water and whatever. I don't understand it all. You guys are the experts, but so we have all this power. So we can handle the 2 kilowatt, whatever transformer for the data center. But people have questions. I mean, when you go into negotiations with this data center, it's like, how are you going to ensure that you're going to keep the rates down? Because a lot of people in town have trust issues with that. And then the next thing we're going to do is, well, let's all vote on a bond to build a generator in Scal Bay to create more power that we told you last week we have plenty of power.
So.
We're going into some super El Nino, according to my rabbit hole conspiracy theorist scientist guys on YouTube. So I don't know, maybe just speak to that a little bit, because I'm gonna have to answer the people and I'd like to be able to answer them.
I literally have a voicemail of people calling me.
Oh, I'm
to
sure you
talk
do.
About it, yeah.
So you're looking at two different issues, and you'll see where it comes together. So we need the generator. We have plenty of power until SEPA gets cut off from us because of a marine line, a cable getting cut, or a landslide, or whatever.
Falling on the
Tree
lines.
falls, and then we gotta create our power internally. That's where the lack is when we don't have.
Hence the new
SEPA.
generator.
So that's when we say we have plenty of power, we do. And then when you go back to how is this gonna keep our rates down, I will use my favorite analogy, is say in Petersburg, there's one spot to buy pizza, and you have to buy a whole pizza, and that pizza is only good for one day. It disappears after that. So you wanna go buy a piece of pizza, but the whole pizza is $20. So that slice that you're gonna eat costs you $20. But if you and Bob go together, each of your slices are $10. Well, you get James, Bob, Rob, and Bob, and each of your slices is $5. So each of those slices is a kilowatt hour. So the more we sell, the
Less
cheaper
we
it's
have to
gonna be,
charge.
because it's covering our fixed rates. This $9 million or whatever.
So this is when the poop hits the fan plan. Right?
This-
So as
Yeah.
Steve said, it's two different things.
Yeah.
This,
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
diesel
absolutely.
is our backup when we
All right.
don't have hydro coming down,
Yeah.
the transmission line. And Petersburg, every other Southeast Alaskan community has diesel fleet to cover that, eventuality. Cause as I said, there's no way that.
Well,
any
at least
source is
15
100%
out of the 20
reliable.
calls I got, understand you better have a contingency plan or a
Yeah.
backup
Yeah,
plan, right?
absolutely.
That's why you have a spare alternator on the boat and whatever else, so.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Truth of it is, we could go without having diesel backup. So what happens if we lose the SEPA connection? How cold do you want to get?
You lose a
So that's
submarine-
the issue, yeah.
Typically, you're talking, it's like 2 hours to get back on, and yeah, that's uncomfortable and people grumble and we can live with it. But remember the submarine cable when that failed, and remember the landslide. So now you go from a couple hours to a couple days to longer. So that's why we need it, not to cover our loads every day, to cover our loads when we're not connected to the hydro tie.
And this project, this diesel project was started way before we even had an inkling that data center was
Yeah.
a possibility. They're not related.
And we're only and basically you're only asking for 2.5 more million to be done. And this is just the construction of the diesel power generator that we already have
So
and that the
it'll-
voters already voted on. And okay, yeah. It's cool.
Yeah, it'll just be the electrical, mechanical installation. All the equipment's bought and paid.
And unfortunately, the price went up. I mean, let's
Yeah.
call it what it is. I mean,
It's,
Where
Yeah.
are we in any kind of thought process about the backup electrical storage system?
so that's another thing that, we'll talk about when we get to the budget, but I can give you
Okay,
a
no, fine,
preview.
we're talking about later, that's fine.
Well, I don't know if it'll come up, but part of our professional services is gonna look like a giant leap in our expenses. But that covers a bunch of FERC-related stuff that we have to do. We can't not do it. And then 2 design feasibility studies. The one that Jeff brought up is BESS system, battery energy storage system, to go out at the hydro. And what that'll do is one, if we do have a landslide and we generate power in town, the hydro can keep running out the road and that battery will set the voltage set point and the hertz. You know how on your boat, the generators go up and down. It'll cover that. But the biggest improvement for everybody in town is when something happens at Ketchikan and a tree hits the line and we get this brownouts here, it'll help smooth that out. So that's the one design study that I'm pretty excited about. The other one is we're sitting on reserves to cover the Main Street transformer that we have over here, which quite frankly is probably nowhere near enough money sitting. It's a unicorn. So the design study's gonna look at, one, if we replaced it as is, how much do we really need? And how many years or half a decade before we get a new one? Or look at putting two smaller transformers to do the same job for half of what we have in reserves for it, to free up money for some of these other capital projects. So that's kind of what we're looking at. And then the best one, there's a lot of federal and state money out there for free. So, I mean, realistically, you could look at paying 25% of the project from us and the rest the government. So, that answer your question, Jeff?
Any more questions for Power and Light? Bob?
How would, if we had another 2 megawatts at Ocean Beauty for data center, wouldn't that trigger another need for another 2 megawatts diesel extra capacity?
Hypothetical, because there's no agreement between Greens Park and Mozilla, so no talks with us. But we're gonna come up with a contract or however you phrase the right word for the rates that we can tell them to shut off when we need to shut off, or pay the diesel cost if we have that capacity. So
That's why you guys brought it up. Yeah. We have this perfect little puzzle piece that fits right there.
yeah,
And we're not gonna go over because you guys already just explained that to us.
So the diesel generation capital improvement plan, like I said, we did this study in 2021. So we've been thinking ahead for this Scout Bay Generator 2 to get that online. And then it's in our rate study to start working on the next one. All of that work, all that study, was done before the data center came up. But we're confident because of the agreement that Steve mentioned, we're gonna put it to them and let them decide how do you want to do this? Do you want to pay for fuel or do you want to just shut off? And either one of those scenarios protects all the other customers in town from additional costs.
and if we don't have the capacity, yeah, they'll have to stay down those days when it's super cold. Because I mean, if you look at our diesel capacity now, we're good most of the time in the winter when the peaks are up there. But we have those. I don't remember my slide, that 13.8 megawatt peak that we've had like 3 times in the last couple of years. Well, we have 13 megawatts of generation. So that's when you got to decide to shut people off. And we were very upfront when Greens Park was asking questions, saying that there'll be days of the year where we're gonna have to tell you, you can't be a customer today. Is that gonna fit your business plan? And they said, yes.
Any other questions?
Too many.
So here's just a list of water and wastewater major projects. We've seen most of them on last year's or this current year's budget, except for the outfall repair project. Just for the sake of time and things, does anyone have any questions about those projects? Again, they're listed in the budget with descriptions and amounts. Okay, I'm gonna move on then. So this is a list of the state revolving loan program loans with water and wastewater. Remember, these are loans that are at 1.5% interest. And in some cases, like the pump station they've pledged to reimburse, or not reimburse, but forgive 16% of the principal once that project's done, which is about $530,000. So this is just a list of all of the projects or all of the loans we have We have, the water treatment plant is almost paid off. These were usually 20-year loans.
Jody, back on the last one, on that pump station 4, that money's in hand to finish that project, number 4.
Yeah, well, we ask for reimbursement every quarter. It's almost done. The project's almost done, right? Please tell me it's
Yeah,
almost
it is
done.
almost done, yes. Yes, we are, well, actually, they're pouring concrete this week on curb and gutter. Street, very soon. Substantial completion has been met, and project should be done, I'd say in June. We'll get the grass seeded and trees planted and make it pretty.
Any increases over what we have budget for that?
So is that road staying then? That's across the street from, I'm just curious, across the street from Curry's?
That's gonna be a service access road. Yes.
Okay, I
Is
get
it gonna
asked
be
that
prettied
question
up?
quite a
Yeah.
bit, so.
That's not pretty.
It's graded really nicely now.
It is, yeah.
So that will be,
You're
sorry.
not getting anywhere.
So that's gonna be the start of the walking path then, the road, and then it, okay.
Like flower pots out there or something? Just any-
Clean it
Sounds
up.
like Parks and Rec
Sigmatees and through in
with
the
your
back,
extra
through
6
the
month.
through-
person. Sanitation, so a 60,000 estimated increase to the bail disposal contract with Republic Services. Aaron, do you want to talk about this a little bit? Are you working with C-Squad, just trying to figure out something for next year or the following year, sorry? Fiscal year 28.
What we did this year is we did a 1-year contract extension with Republic that will get us through the CSWA study. And then based on their recommendations, we will likely be seeking probably a 3 to 5 year contract with the same provider, contractor.
When you brought that forward last time, though, there was a thought that they would no longer take a contract with us. Is that changed?
I think last year, what Republic was proposing to us was that we would have to provide our own shipping containers. And that it's just not a feasible option for us. And we were made a lot of noise about that, and they've pulled that back, and they will not be requiring us to provide our own containers. No, they're more than happy to take our garbage.
Okay, thanks.
Aaron, can you talk about what the status is for the $100,000 sprinkler system? It's been on the budget for a couple of years now.
That is, that's something that Chris Cotta put in there quite a few years ago. The sprinkler system is original to the building, and it is aging, has a lot of corrosion. We just had it inspected a couple of weeks ago. They said it's still serviceable. There's low pressure in the system, but they said it'll put out a fire. So that 100,000 is essentially a placeholder. We would have to get it completely re-engineered and get an estimate.
Any questions for Aaron on sanitation at all right now? Okay. So the Harbor Globe budgeted a couple placeholders for the sea float stall replacement of 1.3 million and the drive down approach paving, as well as 400,000 for the feasibility scout base study. Does anyone have any questions about that right now?
Is that for the replacement? That was part of the rate increase we did. Is that, you have it on hand for those?
Yeah, we have it on hand. I did submit a grant request for municipal harbor match grant for 50%, waiting to hear. They are just coming to the table now to start evaluating those grant And at some point, we'll see where we rank and to see where the legislature decides to, if the governor decides to fill that or not, or, and then wherever we fall in ranking, we'll see if we get some money.
Would this be the whole sea float or just the
No,
end?
it's 4 finger floats.
4
Or
or 1.3?
1.3.
Yikes.
That's realistically how we will probably replace $100 million facility. That's what the South Harbor is going to cost you, to replace. So anymore, that's how you do it. You're
Cool.
going to save and chip away at it. Those are 1972 vintage finger floats that came over from the old Middle Harbor when the South Harbor was brand new in 1984.
What's the monthly stall rent on those sea float
Uh,
fingers?
They're between $250 and $275 a month.
Per finger, so both adding on both sides. Yeah. How does that pencil out over how many years to pay for
$100 million, you'd probably get a new South Harbor.
no, I mean, $275 a month. And if they're,
Well, yours,
300 grand a piece, it could take like 100 years to pay for one of those.
But we get grant money, so that helps.
we have 577 stalls.
You can do it by the stall, I think. It just seems it just doesn't seem to work.
Yeah, it's the finger floats are deteriorating pretty much across the board, right at the same standard. These 4 are just 15 years older than the rest of the harbor. So they came in, with half of their life, well, considerably. We extended them for 50 years beyond what their life was expectancy has been. So we've got a lot of value out of those 4 particular stalls versus other finger floats that are going to have to be replaced probably earlier.
So to, get to the base issue is it'll never pay for itself before it needs to be replaced again. But with the help of federal and state grants, you can get closer, and that's what we rely on. I mean, as those things go away, it becomes harder and harder to keep the harbor in the shape it needs to be in to support our fleet. But the truth of it is, yeah, the numbers don't add up.
That's why we have that municipal harbor match grant, and that's why we exercise it by putting in for it regularly to show the state that it's a very important piece of keeping all harbors across the state up and running. But yeah, we replaced the North Harbor 10 years ago, and that was a $10 million project that we put in much money for that. That was a couple $1 million that Power and Light came up with to put power in down there. So, and we put in $2 million and the state gave us $3.5 million. So we put in $4 million for, that facility. So.
There's lots of things between what Glow does and we do that we don't recover anything back for 50, 60 years. You wanna.
You see in my budget, Jody figures it out, based on 50-year replacement, it's 1.3 million this year for putting away for our annual, what do we call it? Depreciation, annual depreciation. And right now, we annually sock away from our revenue stream about 200,000, and whatever raw fish tax comes in, we sock that towards it. So we're bringing in towards our depreciation roughly between 400,000 and 500,000. So we're sitting on about $4 million now that we've brought in since we were broke when we built the North Harbor. And then when we were broke, when we went to dredge the South Harbor. And so it's just, that's how we keep the balls in the air. But if we were to have at the end of 50 years, the needed money to replace a facility, we'd be having to double our rates across the board.
Buy a boat, Bob.
Go ahead.
Okay, Scout Bay vessel haul out. So I was trying to think back of when we've had such a big project run through the borough, maybe the drive down dock perhaps. I mean, this is a $15 million project. I thought I'd just make it slide, so we could talk about it if anyone had any questions for Glo or Liz on this. Okay.
And in the, just in a periphery to this, there's no money in there for the fire hall or the training centers.
Correct.
Tanner, they don't have any huge projects this next year, just regular maintenance items. Medicaid for assisted living had gotten behind with the transition of staff up there of department heads, but Michelle's almost caught up for everything. I know we've talked about it operating in a deficit. I'm waiting until after fiscal year end to get the final audit numbers to present to the assembly about, maybe talking more about what we're going to do in the future with that facility. But right now it has a negative fund balance. Motor pool, there's 2 replacement vehicles budgeted for next year, a garbage truck and a police department vehicle. Is that the truck? Yeah. It's a truck.
Questions?
I got one.
Good.
Thank you for putting this together. I know this is a lot. And then question is that, when you went through and did the budget, this year, how much this year did we have to like kick into our reserves in order to balance this budget, or did we?
Didn't.
We did not, so we're still sitting okay at least.
Or are you talking about the current budget that we're in right now?
Yes.
The one you're
The
talking about
one-
today.
Next year that we're talking about right now.
How about both?
This one that we're in right now, we've had to go into reserves, but I would have to get back to you on how much. I mean, we probably will be up on our investment income. We're looking a little higher too, so it might wash.
Okay.
And as far as the general fund goes, I can't
Mhm.
speak for all the enterprise funds. That would be amazing if I could do that right off the top of my head. And then next year, yeah, we've balanced the budget for the general fund.
And yeah, we didn't have to kick into reserves at all. Sweet. So,
But again, we're in the middle of negotiations with our largest.
I'm not saying we're not
employer.
going to.
Yeah, right, yeah, so
I'm just saying,
I don't know
the
I
whole
don't know how
point,
that's gonna turn out. quite
the whole
yet.
point is to not go into our reserves and have a better reserve every year. And so,
Well,
doing this is a pretty good job to be able to fund all the new things that we're being able to fund. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, we don't want our reserves to get too big either, because that means we're getting the money from somewhere. So it's kind of always a balancing act to make sure that reserve target is right where we want it to be. And that makes the auditor happy and, but we definitely want to keep money there, but we also don't want to, put more money there than we should.
Tax notices go out, we will hear.
We're hearing about it every day.
Yeah. I know,
Every day.
you will hear.
No, I'm hearing about
This
it
goes out.
every day.
So, and that's another point I probably should make. There will be a resolution for the assembly to approve on the actual mill rate that's in this budget. So if that mill rate isn't approved by resolution, then that's gonna change this budget. So it's probably, I'm gonna bring it to the assembly, the second reading of May.
I think I'm way too approachable because I get too many phone calls. That's
Yeah,
what-
well-
I'm gonna be less approachable. I want to go back to page 32. Within the last couple meetings, we've looked at the Scow Bay, which is exciting. There's some things to work through there. So the fire hall, it seemed like that was all untouchable. It's gonna stay where it is. The fire hall that's there at Scow Bay. Because that's the impression I got at the meeting.
So the mayor and I met with some of the staff to talk about what are we gonna do with the fire hall. So fire hall building can stay. although there's some impacts on it. The training materials has to be moved both for construction as well as in the future. And that, so we've got to find a new place for that, and we don't have it yet. So that's why we're kind of talking to them as far as our group goes to figure out what are the possible locations. It's harder than you think. We want someplace that's got access to water. And, you know, we have no money set aside for land purchase. So that's part of the issue as well. So it's going to be an ongoing conversation. I mean,
Do you have any idea what the cost estimate will be to be moving that, to the training part of it, right? Is it tower or a
I
building?
believe Aaron Hankins had a estimate done by Alan Murph, and it was well over $1 million. Did I get that number right, Aaron? Or where do you go?
But he asked how much it cost to move it, right?
Well, to relocate it, I guess, I don't,
That's to build a whole new site is what,
oh,
Just to remove it, put.
but to actually move it,
To where?
well, temporary.
I-
is-
I got some questions on it, so thought I'd bring it up while
Sure.
we're here. So I'm sure after the, tomorrow. or
Yeah, I mean,
next day I'll
the
get-
biggest challenge is it's cheap, as Liz points out, it's cheap to move, but you have to move it to a location that actually works for the fire department. So that's where it gets tricky. I mean, and so, the estimate I gave you from Alan Murph was talking about a location and then the cost to build the infrastructure to get the water to that location. So, yeah, sure, if we can find a location to put them in that already has water and already has a rock pad that the fire trucks fully loaded with water can drive on, then the price tag goes down quite a bit. But we're not there yet. We don't have a location like that. And that's what's taking some time and effort.
And so by moving the leaseholders out of there, getting them out and to grade that area to start this project, we're gonna do the same thing again once we have moved the training towers?
No, the training tower and the containers that they use for various training as well as storage have to be moved before the grading of Scow Bay. And-
Okay, so then that's coming up here.
Sure, but we don't, and we can move all of that. We have a location to move it to, but it can't be functional. That's the difference.
And how does that work with the fire department's training program?
It puts them in a tough spot for however long it takes us to find a new location for them that's permanent.
Does it make sense if we're moving that? I mean, I have this on the agenda for Monday's meeting, and we can talk about, but does it make sense to move it twice? Or does it make sense to find a spot and move it while I mean.
That's what we've been doing is looking for, and we have not found a spot yet. So, we had to have a contingency plan that says we can move it so that we can move forward with Scow Bay, and that's in place. But we don't have a location that we can move it to and just move it once.
It's
That's
not-
part of what this.
You're saying it's not easy, so there's no borough property that would work, and so we're looking for private land, somebody with
Well,
a private lot.
There are some borough we've talked about up there by the, was it the water plant?
The pole yard.
Aaron, or is that the wastewater plant? So that, up near there potentially,
14th Street.
but we have not talked to Aaron Morrell or,
I've talked to Justin and
Yeah.
it looks like he's got that.
this is what happens every time we come up with a possible location. There's usually something,
The main issues is borough has the land already. Is it already developed? Which, no, if it's developed, it's already in use by another department. Is it
Land's not cheap, so.
not giving up. I mean, we're gonna keep at it, but I mean, we very well may be moving that equipment before we have a formal home for it in the future.
Thank you.
I don't want to stop Scout Bay. I mean, that's too
Well, I
important to me.
understand, but we're trying to, just like I said 10 minutes ago, we're trying to work through a couple of things that would be nice if it was more smooth.
I guess I do have a quick question. Since we're on here and now it's in my head. What is the like footprint that you need, like just for the building part? Just curious. Off the top of your head, do you have any idea? I have a secondary question.
Square
after that.
footage.
Square footage.
So right now, what we're currently using. If we have,
So
because a lot of the ditches are undeveloped, so you won't try.
but 100 is what you could use. So I'm just thinking out loud, of course, but it seems like everywhere around Petersburg and everybody is extremely tight. It's a very large facility. What have you looked at just expanding your parking lot?
Up at the fire hall up there.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you guys have tons of room. I mean, you have a lot of big equipment, but
the issue is the airport, so I have.
oh,
I might talk to the airport manager. Last time I asked, okay, well, what criteria are you basing that on? What is the actual?
or even just push behind because that's borough land behind.
Right.
So I can go back.
Everyone
Year-
probably
When they
goes,
built
"Wait,
the
so sorry."
fire hall, we looked at potentially building the police department there. The cost to just prep the site then, so that's a lot of years ago, was well over $1 million in rock. I can't imagine what it would be today, but
It's cheaper probably.
anyway, I mean, that doesn't mean it's out of, that still may be the cheapest alternative, but it's not free for sure.
And I don't think there's any, be better just to move it once, but
Absolutely agree,
yeah,
but
but there's other variables here.
Thank you guys for coming. I mean, this is like not often do we all get all the heads together. We can ask questions to you guys directly. So yeah, I'm done asking
Bob,
questions.
you had a question, I think.
Yeah, one thing that helped explain it to me, Glo was saying, we're getting millions of dollars in grant money to resurface that and as a boatyard. And if you're bringing back flame and soot back to your boatyard, it looks a little sketchy, like you weren't really committed to this boatyard. So it's not coming back there. So that's clear to me now.
And there was 3 or 4 options they were looking at. We gotta let the staff some time to work through some of these options.
If you can find a private chunk, of private land, 150 by 100 or whatever. Maybe.
Found some private land, but it's a combination. It's finding the right kind of private land, close to the highway, close to water, and that's been hard, but anyway.
Good. I know you do. You have a warehouse up there to sell them that, Bobby. Good conflict of interest.
Any other questions?
Okay, Jody, yeah, any other questions?
No.
I know.
Alrighty, thank you.
Oh, it is.
We'll call it to a close and thank everybody for coming.
Thank you.
We'll
Are we, was this